Thank you. Good morning and welcome to today's meeting. I want to thank you all for joining us in the historic Orpheum Theater. We are here today because of events surrounding the power outage and the tragic loss of life that occurred in our city on Monday. We are grateful to all of the people who are working to restore that power, as well as our city employees who responded to it, and everyone who worked to make today's meeting possible in this venue. We had a 6.5-hour meeting last night, and several of the individuals who are interpreting here today worked throughout that. So I want to express my gratitude on behalf of the City Council to our interpreters for their hard work. And now I'd like to call to order the July 3rd, 2019 formal City Council meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio?
Here.
Councilmember Garcia?
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado?
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski?
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor? Councilwoman Stark? Here. Councilwoman Williams?
Here.
Vice Mayor Waring?
Here.
Mayor Gallego?
Here. Thank you. All members are present. Councilwoman Williams is joining us telephonically. Will our interpreter, very hardworking, Mario, please introduce himself?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Mario Barajas. I'm going to be serving as today's Spanish interpreter, one of two interpreters. I'm going to be making a brief announcement in Spanish. Buenas tardes, o mejor dicho, buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Mario Barajas. Voy a ser uno de los dos intérpretes que va a estar ayudando en la interpretación del español. Si alguien desea escuchar la interpretación de esta sesión en español, pueden pasar hacia acá adelante a escuchar la interpretación y recoger los instrumentos para poder escucharla. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Will the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6603 through 6612, S45826, 45890 through 45921, and resolutions 21762 through 21765.
Thank you so much. We next move to boards and commissions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on Mayor and City Council board and commission nominations?
Motion to approve Mayor and City Council Board and Commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We will not be having swearing in today, but we want to thank all of our new boards and commissions nominations. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on the order of the meeting?
Mayor, I make a motion to suspend the rules and take items 65 and 66 out of order.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by nay? Motion passes unanimously. The next item is item 65, public hearing on the adoption of the property tax levy for 2019-2020. I will now declare the public hearing open. City Clerk, do we have any cards on this item?
No, Mayor.
Do we have any anyone wishing to speak from the council? I will close the public hearing. The next item is item 66, adoption of the property tax levy for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve item 66 with ordinance S-45897, the property tax levy for fiscal year 2019-2020. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor? Stark?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Waring?
No.
Gallego?
Yes. Motion passes 7-2. Vice Mayor, do you have an additional motion on the order of the meeting?
Mayor, I make a motion to suspend the rules and take item 112 out of order so that it can be heard before the liquor license item 21 that accompanies it.
What's 112?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, it's a motion and a second. So this is a motion to take entertainment district exemption application at 110 East Roosevelt so that it can go before the accompanying liquor license. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 112. Do we have any cards on item 112?
No, Mayor.
Any council member comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark. Williams.
yes,
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. Now we move to liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 2 through 47, except items 13, 44, 46, and 47.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye,
Motion passes unanimously. We next move to item 13, which is an item in Councilwoman Guardado's district. I will turn over to the councilwoman.
Well, good morning, everyone. My office received a letter in opposition to this liquor license from the Sevilla Neighborhood Association. I appreciate the hard work that leaders in our neighborhoods and District 5, day in and day out, do. Today, I especially appreciate the work of the Sevilla Neighborhood Association in bringing their concerns to my office. I would like to take a moment to explain my position on this item. I believe first and foremost in dialogue between neighbors, business owners, developers, and our diverse community members. I believe that many of the problems we see today could be resolved if people would sit down and talk to listen to one another. I know that Sevilla Neighborhood Association worked diligently to reach out to today's applicants. Unfortunately, besides a brief phone call, neither the applicant nor their representatives took the opportunity to sit down and take the neighbors' concerns seriously. I believe strongly that when a protest or opposition or general concern is raised by neighbors, an applicant should be expected to sit down and listen to address their concerns. Because this has not yet happened, I am requesting that item 13 be continued until the next formal city council meeting scheduled for August 28th.
Second.
I hope that applicant will take this opportunity to sit down with neighbors and listen seriously to their concerns. If by August 28th, the applicant has not met with the neighbors, I will take a motion to recommend denial of their application. But for now, I would like to be able to continue it to August 28th.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We do have
So,
a neighborhood leader here opposed to the...
yes, so right now we would like to ask one of our neighborhood leaders, Laurie Fitzhugh, to come up and speak.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm Laurie Fitzhugh, the designated spokesperson from the Sevilla Neighborhood Association. We are not opposed to a continuance. We very, very much would like an opportunity to speak with this business owner.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we have a motion to continue this item and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye,
Passes unanimously. We next move to item 44, which is a liquor license application in Councilman Noakowski's district.
Mayor, do we have any cards on that?
We do have one card from Jared Smart of our police department.
And any from the audience, our community?
We do not have any from the community.
Mayor, with that, is the applicant here?
Item 44, SV Market. Is the applicant present?
Well, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to decline this liquor license on the basis of the police recommendation for disapproval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Williams.
yes,
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. Item 46 is the Boom Boom Room, also an application in Councilman Nowakowski's district. We have many cards on this item. I will turn it over to Councilman Nowakowski.
May we hear from the cards?
Wonderful. Would the applicant prefer to go first or last? The applicant would prefer to go first. Rashida Worthy. And Rashida will be followed by Tom Havey, who is opposed. And we have microphones at each end of the aisle, so people are welcome to whichever is most convenient.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brianna Worthy. My address is 902 West Roma Avenue. Councilman Nowakowski and City of Phoenix City Council, thank you for the opportunity to allow all parties to be heard in making your decision to approve or decline your recommendation for our current liquor license application. What I have learned from my fellow neighbors and business owners is that the relationship to address neighborhood concerns must be open, continuous, and consistent to address all those that want to be heard. As the front of line for the Boom Boom Room, I wholeheartedly agree to commit to the task. What I have also learned is that the pendulum does not weigh heavy on the concerns of being a licensed retailer of alcohol, but more so on what changes will come to the street as this space becomes a commercial business. We must not be fearful of change. This bar will not change the neighborhood into a different direction, but will allow the neighborhood to adapt to a city that is already changing. The possibility of owning the business, the liquor license, and the building by a Black family in Arizona has never been available before this day. We ask that you recognize the support within our street of residents and owners, the support within our community of business owners, and the support from the Black community for a chance to express Black music and Black artistry. As a small business who wishes to complete that narrative of continued growth and adaptation, it is imperative that we hear your ruling today. Thank you for allowing us to be heard.
Good afternoon. I'm actually Rashida Worthy. That's my daughter, Brianna Worthy, and my mother, Deborah, is here as well, so I just wanted to acknowledge that for the council.
Thank you. We have 7 people to speak on behalf and 3 who filled out cards in support but not wishing to speak, and we have 5 wishing to speak in opposition, as well as 1 who filled out a card not in opposition. So this may be a record for a liquor license application for the number of comments. So we will have Tom Havey, who is opposed, and then he'll be followed by Anthony McDonald, who is in favor.
Mayor, can we have the people's addresses, where they're from, when they're out there giving public
Yes.
comment?
Is Tom, I'm sorry, it is harder to see than in the council chambers. Is Tom here to speak? Okay, not seeing Tom. And Rashida filled out a separate card. Did you want to speak separately, or did your daughter's comments?
No, I'd like to speak separately.
Okay, then it will be, Rashida will be next, followed by Beatrice Moore.
Thank you, Council. Councilman Nowakowski, you probably don't remember, but I met you probably 14 years ago. I have a long history with the City of Phoenix. I started my career in the City of Phoenix with the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department at the South Phoenix Youth Center. I then worked at the Thunderbird Teen Center, and for the past 20 years or so, I've worked in the community. I carry a master's degree in social work from ASU. I think that that's important because for those of you that are familiar with social gathering venues and bars and things like that, where bartenders and bar owners are kind of like secondhand neighbor social workers. And there are a lot of different facets and things that come with owning a bar. In addition to just becoming interested in being a bar owner and turning my mother's space into a commercial space, we took the initiative, both myself and my daughter, to go to school and become certified bartenders. We also took all of the state certifications so that we have management training and alcohol service training. So we didn't take this responsibility lightly. In addition to that, we have reached out on multiple occasions to our neighborhood association leaders, as well as every resident that lives on that street. We've initiated contact. We have many supporters, and as you know, we have a few opposers. What I think is important that I'd like to express for you today and for the entire council and the rest of the community is that our neighborhood is changing, and we would like to be part of the economic development and positive change that this neighborhood can become. This is one of the last neighborhoods in the city of Phoenix, particularly in Central Phoenix, that is changing and has the opportunity for the type of growth this neighborhood can be. We've owned property in this neighborhood for almost 12 years. I actually don't live in your neighborhood, Councilman. I live in Melrose, which is about 10 minutes north of your neighborhood. But all of these neighborhoods, it's important for not only our neighborhood, but the people outside of our neighborhood to support this bar. And we have a petition that we completed with over 500 signatures that we'd like to make available to you to show you how many people support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Beatrice Moore will be next, followed by Anthony McDonald.
Beatrice Moore, 1301 Grand Avenue. Mayor Gallego, City Council members, this issue before us today is about a bar that's wanting to locate into a residential neighborhood with affordable housing. This house was built in 1925. The owners of the house have virtually not lived there, very briefly. And there are people across the street, next door, south of this. It's all residential. This is a house on the edge of this residential district. And some of these people have lived there for 40 years, 25 years, and clearly they're not happy about having a bar located next door. I think we can clearly ask that, is there anybody in this room who would want a bar next door to them? Is there anybody in this room who would want a bar down the block from them? They have insufficient parking. It's only street parking. There's a lot of apartment houses in this vicinity. There's people who have multiple cars. The street parking already fills up. There's a fire station directly across the street on 15th Avenue that have to get ambulances and big fire trucks in and out. Overflow parking is definitely going to go on the east side of 15th Avenue. I'm speaking with two hats today. I'm with Grand Avenue Arts Preservation. We are a neighborhood organization who, our mission is to advocate for the arts and preservation of historic Grand Avenue and connect like-minded individuals and organizations. We also produce the annual Grand Avenue Arts Festival, and we're going into our 11th year for that right now. We met with Ms. Worthy, both Ms. Worthies, and we were getting answers such as, no, we still don't know how we're going to ingress and egress in the tiny little backyard where we plan on having parking. We do not know that we have to put our commercial dumpsters in our yard and not in the alley. We do not know if we can put a loading zone in front of the house for deliveries. We plan on having a large semi-trucks do large deliveries stop on 15th Avenue, which is a single lane in both directions, to make large deliveries. The young Miss Worthy, Brianna, told me that they are going to address parking by making sure that their hours are such that when people come home from work, they can secure a parking spot along the street and therefore be ensured that they have parking before their patrons start to show up. That indicates that they're totally out of touch with what this bar is the impact it's going to have on the neighborhood. People are not going to come home, park, secure their spot for the rest of the night, never leave, never go to the grocery store, not have friends over, not have family over. This is an unrealistic way to even look at how you are going to have a neighborhood bar in a place where there's virtually no additional parking.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio.
Just a couple things, too. So I've run into this because I've got central city parts in my district, and the parking is horrible for neighbors. We ended up having to put no parking signs up on the streets to keep it out, and even then it's hard to enforce. The other part of it is, too, is that if you could always, who's ever going to be speaking on any of these types of cases, if you could just give us your address and your proximity, approximately how close you are, And if you represent a group or anything else of how many neighbors and that kind of stuff, the more information you give us for the
Sure.
record, the better.
I did say 1301 Grand
Right.
Avenue. I'm within a block of one of my businesses that I own. I actually have a building, catty corner across the street that's art studios. We own multiple properties in the neighborhood that we've fixed up with adaptive reuse projects over the years, and actually this is one of the reasons why new people are wanting to come into the neighborhood, or from some of these renovation projects that we and others have done in the neighborhood. But I live very close by, within a block, and then my studio building is right across the street. Thank you much.
Thank you. Anthony McDonald will be followed by Mickey Montalvo.
Good morning. I'm Anthony McDonald, live off 1514 East Adams, Unit 1. It's a property owned by Goodman. Not Goodman. Yes, Goodman. Became acquainted with the Worthy family when I was in high school. When Rashida was working at the Thunderbird Teen Center, I was part of the City of Phoenix Recreation Internship Program, where I was trained to be a city employee in Parks and Rec. From there, I joined the dance group that she taught and trained, and we competed in talent shows around the city. The group was all female ladies in full effect, and they welcomed me with open arms. She has been a mentor and a positive person throughout my life over the years. I've since gone on to ASU and received my graduate degree, and I'm now a business owner and continue to seek her for advice in many things within my life. I believe that allowing this business to open, another Black-owned business within the community, is positive, not just for those within that small area, but also within the greater City of Phoenix community, as everyone who sees the positive things that the Worthy family does within the city can be inspired and can then benefit. And as well, as she said, bars and restaurants also have a therapeutic effect on those who attend them. It's a community, not just for the employees, but for those who interact with the employees. I've worked in restaurants in the past, and I know firsthand the impact that being part of that family within the business can bring to those. And I would like it if this could be approved and the Boom Boom Room could open within the community.
Thank you. Mickey Montalvo is next, followed by Deborah Mateen.
Hello, my name is Mickey Montalvo. I live at 1506 West Pierce Street, basically across the street from the Boom Boom Room. My concern is, I've been through it when I was younger, when there was, back in the 80s, when the bar was a shootout, where I used to live back in the day. And this is a deja vu to me. Now, I talked to Rashida Wallace when she came. She said she seen me outside, but she didn't go door to door to speak to any of my neighbors. Because I've been there 25 years, my neighbors before me 40 years, and it's people, the apartments, they come and go, they move out, they move in, and that's what scares me, because I got family that comes to visit, and they park their cars outside, they spend a night, my kids, nieces and nephews, but the thing that worries me is just the violence that's going to come out after, It may be successful the first year, but what happens to the year after that? Or 6 months after that. That's my concern is. And same thing with the parking, like the big trucks. When there's cars parked in the middle of the street or on the side streets, fire departments have trouble going through there. Down the street, two of them are streets, Fillmore and Pierce. There's apartments that full of pedophiles. And I'm usually outside at 4 o'clock in the morning just looking out in the street, see what goes on. Kids come and go to school. Every morning, you think they're going to want to see what's going on. That's the thing. I'm just worried what goes on, what kids are going to see when they go to school. So, there's no room. There's no room. We had a meeting on Monday, and she walked out of that meeting of anger. See, and she didn't finish. Her daughter was there, but she didn't finish the meeting herself, the owner. So, any more questions? I gave mostly all my questions to Jessica Buenos. So. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Deborah Mateen will be followed by Mickey Montalvo Jr.
Hi, my name is Deborah Mateen, and I am Rashida Worthy's mom, and I am the owner of 1501 West Pierce, the property in question. One of the things that was not brought up is that the property is on a huge corner lot, and deliveries and parking will be in the back. It's an oversized lot, so I don't think that we'll have trucks or anything preventing people from parking. The second thing is that my address is one of the houses that I own, I've owned at least 10 houses in the city of Phoenix area, and one of the houses that I own and I'm living in now is at 2041 West Adams. My original home is being renovated, which is at 30 West Willetta. Every house that I have ever owned, I have gone in and I have rehabbed it and made it very nice. I also, 7 years ago, lived at the Pierce address. I went in and I fixed it up, and my children have done the same things in regards to houses, and there's nothing that we touch that's not better when we leave. This is not a bar that is going to be a low life anything. This is going to be something that's going to uplift the neighborhood. When I lived in this neighborhood 7 years ago, I must say it looks about the same. I'm very surprised that the people are opposing, because most of the people that have stood up, their properties, I haven't seen a change in the neighborhood. So I think before everybody starts opposing, let's try and talk and let's try and work together. If you have something that happens at the bar, or see where the bar is affecting your neighborhood, but
Thank you for your testimony. We have 2 minutes per speaker and appreciate your testimony. Mickey Montalvo Jr. will be followed by Todd Morris.
Bear with me, I'm kind of nervous and first time. My name is Mickey Montalvo Jr., 1506 West Pierce with my dad. And the only thing I'm concerned is that the homeless around here. Every day it's just homeless people coming up and down, and they try to make an impact on the community. It's a lie. It's because of, they didn't go door to door to asking people what they think about it. They just think, they could go on saying that, it's, they could go on and make your own business saying that, it's not going to be a problem. Lie. It's going to impact everybody. And I'm not depriving them of their business in the future, just that people need to, it's going to come to a neighborhood, people need to speak up, need to know that, we don't like it because of we like the way we live, and we try to get from one place, from a violence neighborhood to a basic neighborhood where we could all just live upon each other, say hi to each other. And basically that's it.
Thank you for your testimony. Todd Morris will be followed by Jessica Bueno.
Hi, my name is Todd Morris. I am the owner of 1509 West Pierce. It's a 4-unit, 2 doors down from 1501. I'm strongly approve this new business coming in here. I think it's going to be good for the community. It's not only going to improve their property, but I think it'll encourage others in the neighborhood to improve theirs, including mine. I think sitting here, everyone's biggest problem with it is the parking issue. We live in downtown Phoenix, or we have properties in downtown Phoenix. People manage parking. Being that it's a bar, I think a lot of people are going to be ride sharing to the bar, so I don't think parking is going to be a huge issue. It's not a huge establishment, so there's not going to be a ton of cars. There's plenty of parking on 15th Ave, and as far as deliveries, deliveries can use the median part of 15th Ave for the 5 minutes that are there dropping things off. So this isn't the first time that we've had a establishment or business in a small neighborhood. Everyone makes do, and by meeting and speaking with the owners, they definitely take pride in running their business and the community. And I think if any of us had a problem, that's owners and residents, that they would be easily approachable and they would hear their concerns. And I get that from them. A block away on Grand, there is a small establishment there that serves, there's actually several, and the parking is more of an issue there. So that would be my rebuttal to the parking issue, and I really strongly approve this business coming in. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Jessica Bueno will be followed by Albert Cunningham.
Hello, my name is Jessica Bueno. Thank you, Mayor Gallego and City Council, for this opportunity to speak. I live at 429 North 17th Drive. I am the president of the Oakland Neighborhood Association. Our boundaries are 15th Avenue west to 19th Avenue, Roosevelt down south to Van Buren. As the neighborhood liaison and spokesperson for this area, I just want to strongly relay to you that this area is residential. This property is zone C2, but has never been used as commercial. It is current use as residential. The impact that it would have to the neighborhoods, the neighbors surrounding the neighborhood do touch on parking, especially when there is 2 vacant lots on Pierce on the north and the south side that will be developed into 12 units. So when you add that component to the street as well, I think the parking should be precedent to the neighborhood. And so as the business, the Boom Boom Room, has met with the neighborhood leaders and the community on Monday, we have not seen a business plan, we have not seen a site plan, we have not seen a security plan. There is no plan for this business, so our assumption of the impact that this neighborhood is gonna have, we have no concrete answers. We are asked to take their word for it, and that, I think that is naive for us to be handing over our quality of life to a business owner that has no experience in hospitality. I understand and I support that their idea of a business, what they want to bring in the cultural history and richness of the African American community, I support that. I just do not support that in a residential neighborhood where there is no parking on 15th Avenue. We have bike lanes, it's 1 lane. Each way, and also the fire truck across the street, which is on the east side of 15th Avenue. What if there was a commercial delivery, parked on 15th Avenue making their commercial, and then the fire truck needs to come out? There's going to be, some major consequences to the congestion that this business will bring. I just ask you, City Council, that you not recommend this to the state board. I think there needs to be a clearer plan, and our assumptions thank you.
Oh, Mayor, may I ask her? So there was no site plan? I mean, that's usually a basic on any project.
Yes, sir. We keep asking, we understand that there's a perception that this lot is bigger than usual, which it is not. We have been told that there's going to be 10 parking spots access through the alley. That is not possible. We have a Motley Design that has an architect group on Grand Avenue that has suggested that 6 is the most that could fit there, but there is no plan of how are these cars going to come in and out of the alley. And also the neighbor just south that shares the alley, their access to their unit is through the alley. So the impact that it's going to have on the surrounding neighborhoods has not been addressed.
So from my end, that's a basic. You always show a site plan so you know what you're going to be doing. That's before you even get into the business plan. You got to show what you're going to do.
There is no occupancy number yet. There's a 45 thrown around, and the square footage is 900 square feet.
So as we move along on this, when we hear from the other side too, I'd like to hear about the site plan, and if it was, I mean, I got to hear the other side too from my end.
Correct.
So I'd like to hear what they've done with the site plan, what they've done with the parking, how many designated that they will have, and if they've even gone through the city on that.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Cunningham will be followed by Letitia Smith.
Blessings, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Albert Cunningham. My residence is 1509 West Pierce Street. I've lived there for about 8 to 10 years. And I hear there everyone's concerned about the traffic and the bar changing the neighborhood itself. Well, as a resident being there 10 years, the new owner that's here, prior to him owning that property, Tom Havey owned that property, and I was a resident while Tom Havey owned it. He also owned the property next door to me, and he rented out to individuals that would have parties till 2, 3 in the morning on a regular basis. No concern about whether or not it would be disruptive to anyone in the neighborhood. The gentleman that lives across the street from the Boom Boom Room, me and him have spoken on several occasions, but 2 doors down from him, they have parties on that street all the time, to 1, 2 in the morning. So the noise is very prevalent as well. And on McKinley Street, about 3 or 4 houses down from where I live at, adjacent to me, they also have parties at night, which is, again, on the weekends. We live and we bury this. Live and let live at that point. And so, again, as long as the new prospective business owners, I've spoken with them, and they've stated that they would be definitely diligent about the parking. As far as the deliveries go, we have a store across the street from us, it's Buster's. It's a supermarket. They have that median lane on 15th Avenue where all deliveries take place. And so I represent not just myself. In my unit where I live at, we have 4 units there, 4 different renters, and all of us are African Americans, and we will all patronize that, simply because it would be a different music that we can enjoy. Again, it's an eclectic type of situation that we're talking about, and we think that everyone should be allowed to be able to express themselves and have something that we as African Americans can enjoy as well on occasions. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you will approve this business, because I think it would be good for the community as well as good for the city of Phoenix as well. Blessings again.
Thank you. Letitia Smith will be followed by Onesimus Strachan.
Ms. Smith is with me. She had to go move my vehicle because I thought I was going to speak earlier, so if you don't mind, I would like to go switch out with her so she can come inside, if that's okay.
All right, we will take Onesimus, and then if she is here after that, we will hear from her.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, for allowing us to speak on this matter. I've been knowing the Worthy family for a very long time, since 2004. My role also as treasurer of the Greater Phoenix Black Chamber, when I served in 2010 and beyond, I had an opportunity to support their small business at that time and other small businesses with a black emphasis here within the city of Phoenix. We are about small businesses. That's what makes this community work and make this community thrive. And the mere fact that this young lady is finding the courage and willing to step out in an endeavor that's already saturated with clubs, even Grand Avenue Brewing Company is over there, probably a quarter mile away from where she's at. She's right across from the police and fire station. She's near Buster Market and a host of other businesses and small-owned clubs, nightclubs, in this very same district within a quarter of a mile to a half a mile radius. So it almost points to now we have an opportunity for an African American business owner to move in this community, and the community is fighting back. That's not fair. Give her the opportunity
to survive and thrive within the city of Phoenix. That's what we're about. She want to embark on this endeavor. I think she should be supported, starting with the Phoenix City Council and getting a license to operate. I don't think there's any concerns about parking. You have fire trucks that operate up and down the street. You have Buster Market, probably a quarter mile away from her, a stone's throw, that's going to have delivery trucks coming in and out of there. And you have night participation right on Grand Avenue with the Grand Avenue Brewing Company about a quarter of a mile right up the block from her, in addition to Oasis, in addition to Bikini Lounge, Irma's Kitchen. There's a lot of opportunity, and I encourage her to go and network with some of those businesses for overflow parking if parking is truly an issue. I don't think parking is. Please allow this woman to operate. Give her a license. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 cards marked in favor, not wishing to speak, and 1 card marked opposed, not wishing to speak. Is Mrs. Smith here? Okay, then I will turn to Councilman Nowakowski for a motion.
Mayor, may I have the applicant back to the microphone, please? Good morning.
And to CCO's question?
I'll ask you some questions, and then after that, if you have anything else, we can. There were some mentions about a site plan, and that there wasn't a site plan. Is there a site plan? There isn't a site plan?
A site plan has been submitted to the City of Phoenix Planning Department. It was required to be submitted with our use permit that we applied for, so there is a site plan on file.
And on your meeting on Monday, did you actually have the site plan present, or were you able to allow the residents that asked about the site
We were
plan?
sent 15 questions by not by the residents, by Jessica Bueno, and we answered every question on the questionnaire, which a lot of it was about parking, site plan, business plan questions. Every question was answered, and she provided a copy to all of the people that attended the meeting, and as well as I asked her if she would like anything electronically, I could send it electronically.
So did you take the site plan to the meeting?
No, the site plan was not at the meeting.
And who was the person that walked out during the meeting?
I received an email from Jessica Bueno this morning where she apologized to me for how she disrespected me and was rude. I walked outside to take a breath because I did not want the meeting to go in that direction, and my daughter continued to talk, and then I returned to the meeting. But Jessica is the person who was very rude to everyone in the meeting, which is why I stepped out, because I thought that that wasn't the direction that the meeting needed to go. But she did apologize and send me an email this morning about being rude and disrespectful.
And regarding the in and out of the parking or the future parking, is it through an alley or is it through a city street or?
Well, that was part of the reason that we didn't bring the current copy of the site plan. When we originally submitted the site plan, it was our hope that we would receive a use permit to have an outdoor patio in the front. We did not receive approval for the use permit to have an outdoor patio in the front. Because of that, our contractor began talking with us about changing how we were going to do the parking, because we now had the area in the front of the property to be used for parking as well, which was a very quick change because that just happened last Thursday. So I didn't want to bring a copy of the current site plan, given the impression that this was the final site plan, which is what I explained in the questions, because now we had additional space on the land to consider for parking. And I told Jessica that as soon as we all met and had the revised site plan, then we'd be happy to send that over. So now we actually have additional space for parking that will be added to the site plan.
And were you able to go to the state and ask for an extension until August 28th?
Was I able to?
Right. Or did you?
I did not.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mayor, last week I made a motion to continue this item due to the concerns that were expressed through the community. And one of the suggestions I made was to continue this application and allowing the applicant to go to the state to ask for a continuance to actually work things out. The Grand Avenue merchants and associations and neighborhood associations in that area are very willing to especially support small businesses. and in the arts community. If you look down Grand Avenue, 10 years ago when I first started as a city council member, that area never looked the way it did now. It's because of that work ethics that people have there, working together and working as a team. So I know these individuals very well. I know that they're very open to new businesses, and especially businesses that are unique and different. So I think the concept is great for this area, but I think it's the location that people are having problems with. You know, having a meeting on July 1st, that Monday prior to this, 2 days ago, and not having that business plan and having a site plan there at the meeting so that the neighbors can tell you, well, you know, we like to see maybe if you move the parking over here, or if you can add this and that. But that's the way these meetings are supposed to work out, where you actually sit down, you have a conversation, and you find that common ground, and then we find that win-win situation. Seeing that the applicant didn't take the time to go out to the state and ask for an extension until August 28th to really sit down and work these problems out, that we have neighbors that have been there for over 35 years that have concern about the parking, the traffic, and the noise, that they feel that weren't addressed during that meeting on Monday. And I've gotten calls from people that support and that are not supportive. The issue isn't about if I want a small business or not. I support small businesses, and you can look throughout my whole history as a council member. If you look at the downtown and all the mom and pop businesses that are downtown, I'm a big advocate for that. And that basically it's about really working with the neighborhood and coming up with that win-win situation. So I like to deny this request because of all those reasons that we heard today and for what I expressed right now. So I make a motion to deny this application.
Second.
We have a motion to deny and a second. Do any council members have comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
I explain my vote, Mayor?
Yes.
But our office attempted to talk to the business. I do think I'm inspired by the work and the vision of it. I do hope that the city staff can talk to you, and our office is willing to talk to you as well for future projects, and I hope you don't give up on it. But because of the concerns and what's happened and what we saw today, I'm unfortunately going to say yes to the motion.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Williams?
Yes.
Waring? Gallego?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. We next turn to item 47, which is MC Mini-mart in Councilwoman Pastor's district. We have one card, which is from our police detective. We'll turn it over to the councilwoman.
Yes, I would like to have the police detective to give his report regarding this liquor license.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. I'm Jenny Wingenroth with City Clerk, and with me today is Patricia George from the Prosecutor's Office. Item 47 is for a new Series 10 beer and wine store license for a convenience store that does not sell gas. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales and may operate with an interim permit. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation for disapproval.
Detective, thank you. Can we turn on the microphone in the...
Good morning.
Perfect.
Hi, good morning. I'm Detective Gokul with the Cactus Park Precinct, and we recommend denial for this applicant due to the fact that the applicant was untruthful in his application. There were some issues regarding following the state law and issues regarding his financial documentation when requested. Through the background investigation, to determine that the applicant was not capable, qualified, or reliable to hold a liquor application, the Series 10. During his first application to the state, which was in April, the applicant failed to list a arrest that he had in Scottsdale in March of 2017 related to a disorderly conduct and fighting, which he pleaded guilty in June of that same year as a result of alcohol consumption. That the applicant withdrew that application and reapplied through the state, and on the May application, the applicant stated that he failed to disclose his criminal history and did not know that it was required on that state application, even though it was a notarized application. A second meeting with that applicant, he was not present at the business, but his brother Christopher was. And during that visit, I noticed that he had pornographic material displayed behind the counter, right behind the candy aisle, basically in view of the public. And keep in mind, this liquor establishment is open to the public. So we have schools in the area, we have neighborhood communities in the area, and the applicant was not aware that it was illegal to display those materials in open public. In addition, I asked the applicant on the city questionnaire, he displayed that he had $47,000 given to him by his parents. I asked him for financial documentation indicating that this was a gift. I asked him if he could email me or call me and let me know where he was in regards to that documentation. The applicant never responded back, never contacted me, never emailed me. It was not until June 18th he's actually sent a notarized document to the city's office stating that it was a gift from his parents. So with that all being said, that this applicant is not capable, qualified, or reliable to hold a liquor application, a liquor license within the city of Phoenix. I believe he will do more damage than good and will definitely hurt the community.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
We do not have a card from the applicant.
Okay. So I'll make a motion. I move disapproval of item 47 based on the police department's recommendation. of
Second.
disapproval.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Williams. Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes. Mayor, we do. Motion to approve items 48 through 125, except the following: 49, 57, 76, 87, 111, 114, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, and 125. Item 124 is requested, item 73 is being withdrawn, and item 124 is requested by the applicant to be continued to September 4th, 2019.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0. We next move to item 49, the Alliance for Innovation.
Move to approve item 49.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any council member questions or comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up again. I just saw it on the agenda. Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0. Item 57 is the Arizona Forward Annual Membership.
I move item 57. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 6-2. Item 76 is the email system. Do we have a motion?
I move item 76. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 6-2. Item 87 is the adoption of the 2019 floodplain ordinance amendment to Chapter 32B of the Phoenix City Code. Will our city clerk please read the title?
Item 87 is ordinance G6611, an ordinance amending Phoenix City Code, Chapter 32B pertaining to floodplains by amending Section 32B-1 pertaining to authorization and findings, by amending Section 32B-2 pertaining to purpose, by amending Section 32B-4 pertaining to implementation, by amending Section 32B-5 pertaining to definitions, by amending Section 32B-6 pertaining to lands to which this chapter applies, by amending Section 32B-7 pertaining to basis for establishing the areas of special flood hazard, by adding Section 32B-9A pertaining to interpretation, by amending Section 32B-11 pertaining to statutory exceptions, by amending 32B-12 pertaining to unlawful acts, by amending Section 32B-17 pertaining to designation of the floodplain administrator, by amending Section 32B-18 pertaining to duties and responsibilities of the floodplain administrator, by amending Section 32B-19 pertaining to establishment of development permit, by amending Section 32B-20 pertaining to standards of construction, by amending Section 32B-24 pertaining to standards for manufactured homes, by amending Section 32B-28 pertaining to appeal board, and by amending Section 32B-29 pertaining to conditions for variance.
Very impressive. Do we have a motion?
We do. I will say, for Denise's purposes, maybe she can get a job reading those disclaimers at the end of radio ads. Pretty good.
Second.
So I move approval, item 87.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any council member comments or questions?
Mayor, can I have that motion again? No.
You didn't catch it the first time.
Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0. The next item is 111, the warehouse and threatened building grant for the Fuller Paint Company warehouse.
I move item 111.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any council member comments or questions? Roll call.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. We next move to item 114. We have a few cards from members of the public.
What's 114?
We have one card in opposition and one card from the applicant. If it's okay with the applicant, I will take the opposition first. Denise Fennell is opposed. Is Denise still here? Oh, I'm sorry. It is very dark and hard to see.
Oh, here she comes.
I'm Denise Fennell. I live at 6951 East Bloomfield Road, corner of 70th Street in Bloomfield, just a few blocks south of this proposed building. The total height of the building seems to be from 54 to 65 feet, depending on which source it is. It has almost 300 units. I'm guessing an average of 600 people in a residential area. The undue burden it puts on the neighborhood south of this building. Airport safety is a factor, even though the FAA has been complied with. We've seen airplanes come down on houses, burn up in yards, and one airplane even came down in the playground of the public school. The extreme transportation problems in winter. Scottsdale Road is like a moving parking lot in winter. It's easy for cars to turn into the residential areas to avoid the long waits to get through a light. This increases danger to children and residents. This design of this building has very little visitor parking on the site. There is a statistical increase in crime because of the interface between urban residential and high-density buildings that are not integrated into the community. There will be much more noise, concentrated pollution, and our homes will become devalued. With a more reasonable design, the developer could create a residence that more properly integrates into the community for the safety and comfort of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 2 cards in favor of the proposal, both marked that they're willing to speak if necessary, one from Nick Wood and one from Ariel Shoshan. So we will leave it to you if you think it is necessary.
May I ask something, Mayor?
Council, this is in the Vice Mayor's district. Vice Mayor.
Yes. And it's actually not far from my house. So one of the issues was traffic mitigation with the applicant. I guess one of the 2 cards kind of speak to what's being done in terms of traffic mitigation.
Arizona Center, Councilor Nick Wood, Assemblywoman 1, Arizona Center. We've worked with the Streets Department. We have submitted a traffic report. The traffic report indicates that the traffic volumes are identical to what is currently being generated by LA Fitness. In fact, in addition, most of the people who utilize the LA Fitness Center live in the neighborhood, so there's more traffic generated within the neighborhood from the existing use than what will be generated from ours. We've also worked with the owners along Sweetwater, which is both south and west of the site, and we're working with them and the Streets Department to put in some traffic mitigation items. And again, traffic really isn't an issue, nor is the proximity to the airport. But you'll notice that we have a 12-1 recommendation from the village in favor, unanimous from the Planning Commission, and there's only 1 person here in opposition. We've worked very closely with all the immediate neighbors, and we have 70 letters of support in the file. Thank you.
Mayor, may I make a comment and perhaps another question for Nick if he has a second?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So, as I said, this is bitter for me because I love that LA Fitness. I actually go to the LA Fitness most mornings, and but LA Fitness is pulling out. The owner of the building, I think, wanted to stay, but could not find another gym to fill that void. So keeping the building as is, and it was designed to be a gym. So something had to change. It is right on Scottsdale Road. I drive the same streets Ms. Fennell mentioned, and she and I have talked at length, and I believe Alan Stevenson and Josh Bednarik have also spoken to her, both with me and separately. I do believe the applicant, there was opposition to this case before. A couple other uses had been sort of floated, and then this came up. I do believe the applicant worked with the neighbors because I personally talked to maybe 15 or 20 people who contacted me about this issue at the outset. I suggested, you go to the Village Planning Committee meeting where it did pass, I think 12-1. For my purposes, I think the original group I talked to, then maybe some of those went to the meeting. I think 6 actually spoke, if memory serves. Josh is nodding his head, so 6 spoke. And now we're down to 1 person. We'd love to make every person happy. I live right under the roots of the plains too, but there are lots of houses there already. This isn't really changing that. In terms of the traffic, obviously LA Fitness is busy, so I accept that the traffic study showed it would sort of be a wash. But one question, I did what I do. So I went out a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and just knocked on the doors in that neighborhood. Several people did mention this. The people on, if you see the street reference, Joan d'Arc, so it dead ends just in basically the western backyard of the LA Fitness parking lot. So people really abut this site. I did meet a couple people who lived very close by. They were concerned Joan d'Arc would go through now when there had been a specific effort to not have it go through before. But that's not going to happen, correct, Nick? Because those were the most specific, concrete objections I had. And the people that heard it might go through, and I don't think that's going to be true based on my talking to Transportation Department, but Can you address that?
Mayor and Vice Mayor Waring, you're correct. It will not go through. In fact, the only person in this room who has the authority to direct that it be opened is you. And if you direct the Streets Department to open it, then of course they'll make that consideration. But we have no desire to have it open. In fact, there's no reason for anyone who lives in the apartment building to go back into that neighborhood, so it's not something we desire to do.
No, and just knowing the layout like I do, I drive, like I said, these streets, I don't really see traffic now, frankly, and I drive those as much as anybody, certainly for the last 7 years of living there. So I just wanted to have that on the record about that one street. Those people, with all due respect to Ms. Fennell, she lives closer to it than I do, but they live like right next to it. And nobody else, I don't think anybody else contacted me from that street, certainly since the village. So I am going to support this case, Mayor, and make a motion in support of 114.
We have a motion and a second.
Mayor, may I add, too, that one of the things I noticed in the case that you could have gone, I mean, especially on Scottsdale Road, to a higher intense commercial zoning, and you went to the C1. I don't think I've granted a C1 ever recently, just because of the intensity that you could get out of a C2. So I think that's pretty impressive on its own, Jim.
Can I just say one thing? I appreciate that. So one thing, it could already be.
No one does that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alan. It could already be apartments. It just wouldn't be quite as tall. Wasn't it a 6-foot difference? I mean, when push comes to shove, by right, they could already make something almost this big with the same use that we're talking about here.
Correct, Mayor and Vice Mayor. The site is zoned C1 today, and the special permit allows for the health club to be there with removal of the special permit. C1 does allow R3 multifamily development at a little over 15 units per acre, and you can get up to 3 and 4 stories as you move further away from the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if you just stood there and you didn't have laser pointers and drones or something to tell you, it's different. I'm not sure that difference is even identifiable to the untutored naked eye. So again, I think, it is on Scottsdale Road. I think there's already residential there. I know about the airport, but it is there. So, and there are a lot of houses there. So I'm going to support it, Mayor, and I appreciate your patience with this.
Oh, and Mayor, one more point too, just to Alan.
Councilman DeCiccio?
Oh, sorry. You can actually get higher intensity zoning there with credits under C1 or C2, but so, I mean, it's relatively what they could almost get now, but the fact of the matter is this is a better case. You're getting it down to a C1. It's impressive you got it down that low, Jim.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Deborah, Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. As part of the motion, we have to adopt the related ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just,
My
sorry,
apologies.
Jim,
You're the planning director.
I know.
You got this
Just wanna
built-in
make sure we-
advantage every time.
Sorry.
So the Vice Mayor's motion included adopting the rated ordinance.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Second. Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Waring.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. We next move to item 119, which is in Councilmember Garcia's district.
Motion to approve 119.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will open the public hearing. Do we have any cards on the item?
No, Mayor.
We have no cards.
Mayor?
I will close the public hearing. Yes, can we have a brief staff report?
Mayor, Councilors, I don't actually make a staff report on this, but I will say the recommendation also needs to include and adopt the related resolution for the general plan amendment.
I was going to say that.
Councilmember Garcia, did your motion include adopting the related resolution?
Yes.
Excellent. The councilmember's motion did include adopting the related resolution. Does anyone have any comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0. We move to item 120, a related item. I will open the public hearing. Do we have any comments or cards?
No, Mayor.
We do not. We will close the public hearing. Councilmember Garcia.
Motion to approve item 120 and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Mayor, Councilmember Garcia, real quick, that's motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation, because there's a difference between the Planning Commission and staff, so I want to make sure it's the Planning Commission recommendation.
Yes, both.
No, just the planning.
Huh?
Or do you want us to explain?
No,
different?
no, it's fine. Just approve based on the planning commissions.
I apologize.
Alan, really?
All right, so we have a motion for approval based on the Planning Commission's approval of this item and adopting a related ordinance. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Noakowski? Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Gallego?
Yes, item passes 8-0. We next moved to item 121, which is in Councilwoman Pastor's district. Would you like to start with a staff report or public hearing?
Probably public hearing.
We will open the public hearing. We have a few cards. If it's okay with the applicant, I will take the opposition first. We have one card opposed from Humberto Badillo. If Mr. Badillo could please testify.
My name is Humberto Badillo, address 202 West Oakland, Chandler, Arizona, 85225. I'm just speaking just as a patron of the park. First, thank you for giving the opportunity to speak. Actually, Jason Morris called me yesterday, so that was great. Apparently, I missed several meetings from May 6th to July 7th with the people that actually went to the It's Still Indian School. Let me remind the council that this is a sensitive area, the Indian School. Not too different behind the motives of Wounded Knee, Little Bighorn River, Sand Creek. Here, children were told what God to believe in, what language to speak, how to dress. And basically, they were told that's just how it's going to be. And now there's a small group of people saying, again, this is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do with the, 108 acres. All I'm saying, it's a sensitive area, and if you repeal that Phoenix Indian School specific plan, you're just going to open up a can of worms. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 cards from individuals wishing to testify in favor. I will, if it's okay with the councilwoman, take the applicant last. So Rebecca Winninger, followed by Margaret Dietrich.
Mayor Gallego, councilmen and women, thank you very much. My name is Rebecca Winninger. I live in the North Encanto area, and I also have been privileged to serve on the Encanto Village and the Planning Commission. I wanted to speak today on this specifically because this is an incredible development that we have before us. And one thing that I wanted to let you know is that both the Encanto Village and Planning Commission, we did ask the city to make sure that the archaeological survey was taken much more seriously and in depth than normal. We realize that this has the potential to be a site that has artifacts, but we also believe that the city staff has been very good in taking what needs to be the appropriate measures. As far as outreach goes, in the years I've been serving, I've never quite seen a developer take the steps necessary for outreach. Several open houses were held. They met with a number of neighborhood associations, collecting feedback, soliciting recommendations, and implemented those at the request of such. I think this has the ability to be an architectural anchor for Phoenix, not just in the years to come, but perhaps the decades. So I would encourage you to deny additional public hearings and move forward with approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And items 121 and 122 are related, 121 being a staff-related item, but I felt the original comments were more on 122, so if we could take that, the applicant filled out a card on 122, but I'm just going to take them together. So we will have Margaret Dietrich followed by Jason Morris.
Margaret Dietrich, 17 West Vernon. I'm with the Midtown Neighborhood Association. Christine Mackey and her development team have done an amazing job with getting the office space in Midtown filled up. Park Central has been developed hugely. We are now ready for the next step. This project is way beyond a little step. It is an amazing development that the best part of it is there are no walls around it. It is completely open to anybody and everybody to walk through. It'll be a gateway to the park, and there are a whole lot of people in Phoenix that don't even know that park is there. We want it open so that everybody is welcome to the park. It interfaces with the park in many ways. The developer has certainly provided open houses. They came to our neighborhood meeting, and I know they've come to other neighborhood meetings, and this is just astounding and totally wonderful, and I hope you pass it.
Thank you. Jason Morris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council members, Jason Morris on behalf of Francis and Jaffe and Pivotal Companies. Mayor, I did have an opportunity to speak with the one individual, Umberto Badillo, who spoke earlier. Mr. Badillo's concern in looking at this application was that it was impacting the entire park. Although he doesn't live in the city of Phoenix, he's a patron of the park, and we had a quite lengthy discussion about the fact that this application does not touch the park property. This interacts with the park, and we are only developing the roughly 14-acre private parcel adjacent to it. I would be happy to give the council a full presentation on this matter if you're desirous of that. We have had numerous public hearings. At virtually every public hearing we have had unanimous support. We have also been grateful to have the support of the neighborhood associations surrounding this property. So I'll defer to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. From my perspective, this is an enormously exciting project. We appreciate the outreach and the work you've done with different communities, including the Native American community. Central and Indian School is one of our key locations in the city, and this parcel's been very complicated and had an extensive legal history. But I'm very excited about the architecture proposed and the concept. So I don't know that we need an extensive presentation, but I do want to celebrate. This is a really exciting project for our city, and I'm disappointed that we're not in an area where we can have the great renderings and really look at it and see it. The building we're in right now has many advantages, but in terms of the audiovisual, maybe a little bit more complicated here today. But we'll turn it to Councilwoman Pastor.
Mr. Morris, what I had heard and spoken to, and I believe, and I want you to verify this, is that there will be an anthropologist that will look at the land and see if there's any type of issues with the land, or I believe that was happening because I spoke to people from Native Connections that was one of their concerns.
That is correct. In fact, our very first meeting, because of the history of this property, was to meet with Native Connections and Ms. Devine, and as a result of those meetings, we added an additional stipulation at the Planning Commission level to ensure that that occurs. That the Phoenix Indian School and the history of that property, it actually went at one time all the way to 16th Street. So that property had an incredible footprint. It was almost 200 acres. The idea is to make sure that is celebrated and to make sure that anything that occurs on that property occurs with their assistance and knowledge.
And I don't know if I'm not sure if Umberto is still in the audience, but I just want to let him know that I have spoken to the Native American community regarding the property, and it has been blessed by them to move forward and to be able to be cultivated and something to be built on there. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Badillo had to leave, but I told him we would connect this summer.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio.
Yeah, I'm excited about this project. It's been some time since we've been working on this thing. I think it went all the way back into the 90s. I don't know if you were working with the Colliers at the time or what, but this thing has been going on for some time. You've got an amazing developer willing to do this who does nothing but all-star type projects, and this is going to be one of the largest projects, and it's amazing that we don't have a lot of people in the room here on this thing because it's that big of a deal, and providing life for that central city area. It's going to be amazing when this thing gets built out, and I'm looking forward to it. Do you have a timeline on that, Jason?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, the first actions will be to go through a design process because of the underlying zoning.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually an extensive design that will take place over the next 6 months, and then more technical construction drawings would move forward the following year.
Right, and then what about the total cost you're going to be looking at here? What's your development cost going to be?
Frankly, Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, we were asked by Economic Development to give an estimate of that. When you talk about both land value and total construction costs and development, it's just shy of $1 billion worth of development that would occur.
Yeah, so I think that's what the public needs to understand is the magnitude of this. I thought it'd be higher than $1 billion, but by the time you're done with what it is you're looking to do, it's going to rival anything we have in the entire state of Arizona. I mean, I don't think of anything that's going to be this big, that's going to be this impactful and this much of an amenity for the city of Phoenix. So I'm fully supportive, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I just want to congratulate Councilmember Pastor for all her hard work in making this possible. I know that Indian Still Park and also Margaret Hams Park is the two parks that we use for major events. And the only concern I have is making sure on the leases on the apartments or if they're going to be condos, that people know that there are going to be some loud events throughout the year. And congratulations, Laura.
my favorite. Do I make a motion, or do we open it up for anything, or I can't remember where we're at?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, I believe we're on item 121, but we also heard 122, which is the applicant's case for the rezoning of it. So currently for right now,
Okay.
you need to the motion would be to approve it per the Planning Commission recommendation, adopt the related ordinance, and that removes the general plan for the for the Phoenix Indian School specific plan, and then we move to the specific zoning case.
Okay. Let me quickly close the public hearing. Thank you. And thank you for taking both the public hearing testimony together since they were closely related. But we are on 121, the staff-generated item. Councilwoman Pastor.
Can I do them separate?
Yes, you should do them separate.
All right. So I move 121. Staff recommends approval based on the Planning Commission. Is that what I'm supposed to be reading? Approval of this item and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. We will next move to item 122, which is the property owner's case. I will open the public hearing. We have already taken all of the cards on this one, but if the applicant would like to add anything.
Mayor, but I'll waive that, of course, if you're ready to vote.
Yeah, okay.
Wonderful. The councilwoman is okay with
I'm okay with that.
foregoing but it really is an exciting project for our city, and we so look forward to watching it come forward and its economic impact as well as having more people enjoy the great amenities on that corner. I will close the public hearing. Councilwoman Pastor.
I move item 122. Staff recommends approval based on the Planning Commission's approval of this item and adopt the related ordinance.
Second. We have a motion and a second from Councilwoman Stark. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Williams. Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 8-0.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you and congratulations. We next move to item 123, which is an item in the Vice Mayor's district.
Mayor, can I make a motion before we do the public hearing?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to deny, and I will explain why in the public hearing.
Thank you. The Vice Mayor has made a motion to deny. And do we need, Councilwoman Pastor?
I would like to make a substitute motion, and the reason why I'm making the substitute motion is after receiving many emails and reading the...
Actually, Councilwoman Pastor, would you pause for a moment? Before you make a substitute motion, is anyone interested in seconding the Vice Mayor's motion?
Oh, second.
Councilwoman Pastor has seconded the Vice Mayor's
Sorry.
motion. Now we turn it over to Councilwoman Pastor for a substitute motion.
So I would like to make a substitute motion after receiving item 123.
Okay.
I'm substitute. Okay, well then have somebody else substitute.
Okay, Councilwoman Pastor takes back her second.
I take back my second. Can somebody do a second for Waring's first motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
All
So
right, now can I go?
Councilman, Vice Mayor Waring has made a motion. Councilwoman Guardado has seconded it. Now we turn it over to Councilwoman
Chris
Pastor.
is like the Allen of the legal team.
I know, he is.
Thank you to our city attorney for helping us.
I'm doing a substitute motion, and the reason why I'm doing a substitute motion after receiving this memo on item 123 and some of the items that I received on the emails regarding the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee and some of what happened within the committee in that moment in May 16th. I would like to, my motion is to take it back to the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee and start for them to hear it again.
And Mayor, I would second that if she adds in the Planning Commission as well, because if you're going to do that,
Okay.
then you need to go back to the process.
Okay.
It'll be a
The whole
second.
start, basically start all over.
Okay.
We have a substitute motion from Councilwoman Pastor to take it back to the Village Planning Commission and the Planning Commission.
Correct.
And we have a
Mayor,
second from Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman DeCiccio.
From my end of it, I'd like to have this be done at a different level too, where this doesn't need to be a staff beating up process, whether we agree with whether or not it should have been recorded or anything else. This is just how it's done. I've done some other checking too on my end, that just because information isn't always done, it's done by notes. And there was maybe one error by the way it was sent up to the Planning Commission, or it wasn't by the notations. But at the end of the day, this staff did a good job on this thing. I'm just being very clear on it. And I just don't want, as we move forward, this to be a beating up process on them. That's unnecessary. The individuals who wanted this got what they wanted out of it. And they're going to be able to have two shots at the apple here. Thank you, Mayor.
Wonderful, thank you. Any council member comments before I open the public hearing?
I would like to make some comments.
Vice Mayor Waring.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I can't see anybody out there, but Larry Lazarus, the representative of the applicant, knows when he first brought this to me long before the village and so forth. I had
We do have a request if you could be closer to the microphone.
So in any case, Larry Lazarus was the applicant's attorney. We discussed this before it ever got to the village. And I had concerns about the use. But really the issue here, to what Sal referenced and what Laura referenced in her motion, or before her motion, you know, there were some things that happened that were not as crisp as they could have been. Again, I'm not planning on beating up on staff either, but Alan, you and I have discussed this extensively, as have Josh. Ed, you and I have discussed this. I don't know that I'm not sure the result necessarily reflected exactly how things might have gone had other motions been made. One village planning member rightly wanted to make a motion to deny after the motion failed, the original motion failed, and was told that wasn't necessary, and actually it kind of was necessary, certainly is normal policy. There was also a discussion about whether this use is appropriate along I-17, the whole stretch of it, not just this project. Again, I think there was an indication that maybe they couldn't have that discussion. They can have that discussion. It may not be binding for us, but it's certainly information that I would like to have. And that discussion never had a chance to take place. So going forward, I felt very strongly about denying this. There are also, it shouldn't be discounted, a whole stack of cards of people who are against this project, who live within, I think 600 feet max. It's probably, what do you say, Mayor, 30 cards or so. It's a healthy citizen turnout for July 3rd to come downtown. It's quite a drive up I-17 to get down here. And I appreciate that people are here participating. They also participated at the Village, where I think, was there 40 or 50 people who showed up in opposition?
There were a number of people, Vice Mayor, that were
If you don't have the
probably
number, it's
not
fine.
in that
But
ballpark,
there was a
yes.
lot of folks who showed up. So there were a lot of things that went in the motion to deny. I just, at some point, though, I was concerned, and Councilwoman Pastor alluded to this as well, there was just a lot of back and forth. I obviously can't talk to every member, so it was left to staff to explain. And I think you and I had discussed this at length. And I just think a do-over is the appropriate course, so I appreciate Councilwoman Pastor making that motion. I think it gives everybody a fair chance to start over. I think the citizens still get their chance to participate, but most importantly to me, I think the people at the Village, the members of the Village, or the Village people, as they like to be called, I think thank our friend Cliff Friedman for that one, if he's here. I think at some level they get to have a discussion that I think is important for them to have, even if it wouldn't be binding to this case, because this case had already started. But it's information that, frankly, I would like to have. The way I use the information we get from the Village is Village members do call every once in a while and say, hey, Jim, what do you think about this case? I don't tell them. I want to get the unfettered view of people who live in that neighborhood. I think that's sort of the whole crux of the Village process, and it usually, in my experience, this process works pretty well. It also failed to pass at the Village, and I can't recall, I may have done so, but without really substantive changes, I can't remember voting for a project, at least in my district, that had failed at the Village to pass. So there was a lot that went into that motion, but everybody getting a do-over is probably the appropriate course. And I appreciate you indulging me, Mayor. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. I am planning to support the motion. We do have 19 cards in opposition to speak, 10 not to speak, 3 in support, and 1 neutral. So I assume the testimony will change given the new motion, which I think is quite likely to pass, but with your support, I will open the public hearing. We will open the public hearing on item 123, and would we like to hear from the applicant or the opposition first? Heather Dukes.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego, Vice Mayor Waring, and members of the council. We are here today. We understand the councilwoman's motion. We do want to emphasize that public input is important to this process. We've had an opportunity to meet with some of the members of opposition in this case, and we've heard the concerns raised regarding the process that happened at the Village Planning Committee. We have had an opportunity to read the staff memo dated July 2nd, and we do agree with the conclusions set forth in that memo, in that this, the process, it's a description of the process, the Village's role, and then also how the motion to approve failed by a vote of 3 to 5. We agree with everything that's in that memo, but we do understand that we need to then go back to the Village based on this motion here today And we would just ask that if we could verify the hearing dates for our next village planning commission and city council hearing, if in fact this motion is approved, we would greatly appreciate it. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, and thank you for supporting us, making sure we get the process right.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Williams.
Yeah. I just want to be sure that my vote is counted since the Indian school. I've been voting. Have you heard me?
I apologize, we did not hear you.
Okay. Could it be recorded now?
Well, City Attorney.
Mayor, members of the council, if her not voting was due to technical issues and we have verification that she did vote, we can reflect that in the record and confirm with her that her vote was the vote on each of the items if she was participating.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think it'll change the outcome because I think they were unanimous.
But certainly some exciting cases.
Yeah. Wonderful cases, so thank you. Sorry to have interrupted. Just wanted to be sure.
We appreciate your patience. The Orpheum staff has done an amazing job, but this was quick logistics on this meeting. It's Planning Director Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, the dates, if this motion passes, we would take it back to the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee on July 18th. That would go to the Planning Commission in August 1st, and then to the City Council as your formal on September 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will next turn to Peggy Neely on behalf of who is opposed to the case. And several individuals have asked to donate time to Peggy Neely, although we are optimistic given the motion that she will not need all of it.
Mayor, I won't speak. I will say that we're supportive of the motion that's on the floor, and the folks that have donated their time and the other speakers are willing for you guys to be able to move forward. We know you were held here a long time last night, and so we appreciate your time, but we would say we're fine with it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question for Peggy Neely.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Do you miss those?
I was off. Yes.
You miss those long meetings?
You know, I don't. I'm too old for that now. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
If anyone would like to, I will read off some of the other individuals who filled out cards. If you would like to testify, it would just be on whether you approve of the continuance and going back to the village. Savannah Field. Richard Smith. Thank you. Stuart Kimball.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Stuart Kimball. I live at 1916 West Blaylock Drive in Phoenix, 85085. I'm the member of the Village Planning Committee that has probably created this mess, and I do appreciate the substitute motion that's in play. That is all I have sought since the day after our Village Planning Committee issues arose. I will, at the request of the comments made by Councilman DeCiccio, I have modified my comments a lot. However, there are still things in that July 2nd memo that I believe are to be inaccurate. State law does mandate a citizen review process in ordinance, which does not exist. And so when they claim in the July 2nd letter that the Village Planning Committee, which is truly done only by policy, is not mandated by state law, there are many who would disagree with that concept because there is no citizen review process. And again, I appreciate the substitute motion because these problems that have arisen, and it's not just one or two, are things that could happen at any of the village planning committees in each and every single one of your guys' districts, and it shouldn't be happening. As the zoning ordinance makes clear in section 102, the intent of the zoning ordinance is to respect the considerations of the citizens, and I appreciate that this substitute motion is doing that, and therefore I support the motion that's before the City Council. And I can take any questions if there's any.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Cliff Friedman.
Thank you. My name is Cliff Friedman. I am president and founder of Sonoran Citizens Improvement Association. I came here today to thank you and the staff for making sure that this project, which is severely needed in our community, was going to be passed. And now I'm shocked. I have one word so far. Pushing this back is wrong. Let me tell you the couple of reasons that I've texted myself to read to you. This is a terrible precedent, and now someone can attack the staff on minutes of a meeting and pretty much call them dishonest. Not a good thing. I was at the first meeting, I was at the planning and zoning meeting, and everything was fine. At the planning and zoning meeting, the group there on stage, like yourself, and I'm hoping to get a little bit more time, the group there on stage, like yourself, spent over a half an hour, probably close to 45 minutes, going through every detail and changing things. One thing was to make sure that the project would be closed at 10 p.m. That was a good thing. Is someone trying to tell the staff to intimidate the staff? I don't know. All I know is that I was pretty sure without this change, this was going to be approved today. That's why this change came about, because it was going to be approved, I'm sure. You have the experts of the staff with Alan Stevenson. You have a community like mine that has thousands and thousands of homes, boat owners, RV owners, that need this project completed.
Thank you.
And
for
you
your
want to
testimony.
know something? The place it needs to be completed is exactly where the developer wants it completed. We don't want it completed within
Please
in a
conclude your
place
testimony.
where trucks have to weave in and out of residential areas. I'd like to ask for another minute. Could you vote on that?
No, please conclude your testimony.
I'm sorry? I have
Please,
about another minute.
As the chair of this meeting, I thank you for your testimony, and I'm going to move on. If Mark Temin or Fred Bishop would like to testify.
Fred Bishop, P.O. Box 83653, Phoenix, Arizona. I've been talking to the applicant about a stipulation that would make me no longer oppose this project that they are supporting, and I'm happy to go back through the process with them on that stipulation if that's the conclusion today.
Thank you. Mark Temin.
Good morning. Well, this is an interesting turn of events for us, but I certainly do appreciate the council's attention to our project. I understand exactly why the motion has been made and is on the floor right now. We certainly are disappointed by this because of the things you've heard about the delays that it will cause in our project and the need for this amenity in that part of the city. But in the interest of doing the right thing, I guess, we will certainly support you on this. And I would ask that you do the same when we come back and visit you again in September. Apparently that's the next opportunity to do so. So once again, carry on.
Thank you.
Oh, and Mayor, me too.
Councilman DeCiccio.
So there was a technical issue, and that's one of the reasons why I seconded going that direction. I think you've done incredible work in other places, not just here in the city of Phoenix. I like the project by itself as a standalone. I've committed early on that I would be supportive, and I don't see my vote changing on that. But I think going back to the process to clear up any technical problems that there may have been, I think it's in everybody's best interest to have it be done exactly correct.
Thank you, Councilman. Any additional comments? We will close the public hearing. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. The substitute motion has passed unanimously. We will next turn to item 125, which is a citizen petition. We'll ask for a brief we'll give a moment for the folks who are here for the previous item to leave, and then I will ask for a brief staff presentation.
Mayor, our city attorney, Chris Meyer, will give a presentation on the citizen petition.
Mayor, members of the council, before you on this item is a citizen petition filed pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 22 of the Charter. The petition specifically requests one action from the council, and that is that the council take action to terminate or discipline police officers. That is the only action requested in the petition. As in the report in the packet, the city charter specifically addresses this type of action. And the charter, Chapter 3, Article 4, Section 4 provides, neither the council nor any of its members shall direct or request the appointment of any person to or his removal from office by the city manager or by any of his subordinates, or in any manner take part in the appointment or removal of officers and employees in the administrative service of the city. So, Mayor and Council, while there may be petitions that come before the council where there is room for the council to take action, in this particular case, this petition requests an action that is specifically in the charter prohibited for the council to take. So it's not a general direction to the staff or to study something. So the petition, granting this petition or accepting this petition or approving it would be a direct violation of the city charter.
Thank you. So it would be illegal for the council to accept this petition. There are rules in place, including state law. So we have legislation at the state level that provides due process rights for our police officers. There's also memorandums of understanding with our employee groups, and the city council is prohibited from firing a city employee.
Mayor, very well put. Yes. The discipline council is prohibited by the charter from taking action of this type as requested. And as you pointed out, all the various state laws, charter, other provisions lay out the process that has to be gone through for that to happen in the event that it is found. But the due process rights of the officers, the employees, and others have to be protected, as you described.
And violating all of these items could result in a large legal settlement against the city.
Mayor, members of the council, specifically in the police officers' Bill of Rights, or the peace officers' Bill of Rights, if the termination is done prematurely or improperly, the employee is reinstated, and yes, then the city would be subject to damages for having taken that action.
Wonderful, thank you. Any Councilmember Garcia?
Recognizing that Drayvon and Aisha are in the audience, I would like to ask staff if there's an update or anything you could tell us of where the discipline or any process that's going on with the officers is at.
Mayor, Councilman Garcia, the discipline process is prescribed. It rests with the police chief. I don't know where it is, but it is in the police chief's purview under investigation by the Professional Standards Bureau, and she will inform us when it has made its way through that and the employees' due process rights have been recognized fully.
Thank you. Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you. Chris and I talked about this earlier before the meeting too. So, because it was always my understanding that you can bring up anything, and council from the dais can vote on anything. But so, and the reason I'm bringing this up, not that I'm supportive, is just that we will end up seeing it. So the state law, state requirement says that the city of Phoenix could never be a sanctuary city anywhere in the state. So that would mean, that would preclude any type of discussion like that too, going forward, or any type of petition or any type of vote. Because the charter also says, and this is one of the conversations we had and I brought up to you, it says that you have to follow all requirements. So that the city could never really buck the state on anything that it does, which I'm good with some of that, quite frankly. But so I want to make sure, because it also says in the charter we have to follow the state requirement, and then that would stop or prevent some of these other things moving forward too.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman DeCiccio, generally that is correct. I mean, the council has to comply with the Constitution, state laws, the charter in taking its actions. However, in most actions the council takes and most petitions, the specific actions that are being called for are not as specifically prohibited as they are in this case. So many times there may be things requested in a petition the council might be able to take action on to do part of what is requested, maybe just there'll be some aspects that they probably could not do. In the example of a sanctuary city, that's not real well defined what it means to be a sanctuary city. There may be actions the council could legally take that would be friendly toward those issues, but there would definitely be some things the council would not be able to do. And so the council direction and staff's interpretation and implementation would need to be consistent with law. So some things might be permissible and some things clearly are not if they are prohibited by law.
Mayor? So thank you, Mayor. So you would end up getting, I mean, any petition or any type, it always would be laid out exactly what it would mean and what it would not mean. I understand that. So what I'm trying to get at is that if it's not generally accepted as, you know, right now, the city of Phoenix is not a sanctuary city, but it went up to what I would consider to be a threshold issue. The state law is pretty clear and defined into that. Now, I'm not trying to change the subject. I'm just trying to stay on this subject here, what would be legal and what would not be legal moving forward. So state law is pretty defined as to what it is and what you can and cannot do. And there's no, right now, the city of Phoenix is as far as it could go. So any discussion, any movement moving forward on that would break the charter because it says there you have to follow the law. And then the other part of it is that they would have to define it out exactly as what it would be, and that would be problematic because I don't know how they can go much further than what we've already done. I mean, that's just from my end at least. It's an opinion more than anything else.
Thank you, Councilman.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Any additional council comments? All right, we have 6 residents here who have filled out cards. Aisha Harper. You have 2 minutes to testify. We have microphones on either column. Aisha will be followed by LaJune Pleasant.
We're going to all come together. Thank you.
We will take 2 minutes at a time, please.
She doesn't want to speak right now.
We're going to let the other people that you have on there go first.
Okay, LaJune Pleasant. LaJune is opposed. Aisha was marked in favor.
Good morning, Mayor, Board, and Council members. My name is LaJune Pleasant. I've been a homeowner and resident here in Phoenix for the last 22 years, and I live in District 8. I support the Reverend Jared Maupin in his request to have some type of intervention or some type of oversight by your council, including you, Mayor Kate Gallegos, because this is such a national disaster. We're broadcast all over the United States and world, and if we're going to patiently sit back and wait for the regular process to go through, I don't think that would be of service to those affected and to the community at large and to everyone. You know, everyone has seen what's happened in the news. I know this can go on for months and months and months, so I believe he's just simply requesting a more expeditious way in having this process monitored, the fact-finding investigation completed in a timely manner, and then allow the due process to occur. So that's just what I came for, in support.
Thank you. Anisimus Straken.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I think I spoke to this matter last week as well when you were approving the budget for the police department, $721 million spent. There are some reckless officers on this force, as you probably know. And this was demonstrated in the Ames Harper situation. I don't know what created the meltdown in the field by those officers who have sworn to uphold the peace. I didn't see much peace there. And I guarantee you, any of you as high-ranking officials within the city of Phoenix, if there's any video that surfaced with you behaving in like manner, you would be dismissed from your jobs. You would be put on suspension without pay, without profiting off of the backs of residents and city taxpayers. It will not be this protection that we're seeing these officers get. We're asking before they become more volatile and injuring some residents and citizens here, before that happens, we're asking for you to dismiss these individuals, find an expedited process and an expedited way to do so. I know the state of Arizona has the ARS 38-1101, Peace Officer Bill of Rights. We understand that. And that pretty much will examine if due process was taken by the city attorney and the chief to remove these people from their jobs. I am confident you have a smart city attorney, you have a very smart chief, and they can put more effort behind this process to find out what happened, where it fits on the dismissal matrix within the police department, and remove these officers before they become a bigger problem to the city of Phoenix. I'm supporting Maupin. I'm opposing the staff recommendation. And I only do so because I don't want this limping along and dragging through the process in the system. Let's expedite this. Let's get some results. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the chief has committed to put additional resources into the investigation. Catherine McKinney. I have 4 remaining cards.
We'll all go together. We came together. I'll make it quick. Reverend Jared Maupin. Well, I lost like 15 seconds somehow. I just started talking. But I wanted to
encourage the council to do what you can, not what you can't. I happen to disagree, and I think you should go out on a limb and challenge whether or not it's legal for police to have additional protections that no other city employees enjoy. I mean, maybe they have a wonderful contract. Maybe the MOU was negotiated that way. But I think it's really sad that sanitation workers and parks workers and your own staff members have less protections than officers do. I mean, all city employees should be treated equally. Also, I think that staff said something in there about their recommendation not allowing termination, but what about demotion? What about retraining? What about removing the city-issued service weapons that you've given them? What about suspending them without pay? What can you do? Have any of you asked city staff how, as a council, what lengths you can go to punish these officers? What can you do? I mean, they do work for you. They do work for Mr. Zucker. They do work for the chief. What can the council do to discipline employees? And Carlos, Michael, Laura, I mean, maybe it's time we take a look with MALDEF, with NAACP Legal Defense Fund, with all the lawyers we can muster. Maybe we need to take a second look at whether or not this police union contract with plea is out of control. I mean, it's quite frankly easier for us to get rid of the chief, the city manager, the city attorney, and any of you considering your new sexual harassment and misconduct policy than it is to fire a rank and file officer. That's what we need to do. That's the Cesar Chavez thing to do. That's the Martin Luther King Jr. thing to do. That's the progressive Democrat thing to do. Anything else is just an endorsement of the inexcusable, despicable behavior we saw on that tape. And a lot of what we're hearing from the chief is just, you know, bunkum. Makes no sense. It's absolute malarkey. Thank you.
My name is Kat McKinney, and I'm here to, I'm in favor of mopping, and what we're saying, we do understand that you do not explicitly have the power to fire the officers, but you can make a recommendation to your city manager who has some authority over them to do that. Now, I express my concern for the city of Phoenix because I don't believe you guys deserve the great embarrassment that this has brought. And I think you will definitely have to figure out what to do to repair the image of this city, because it's known all across the country right now that Phoenix does have a problem within its police department, and that they are the #1 police killing department in the country, and that you guys have no authority over them. You have to address it, and it has to be addressed immediately. This is a humanitarian crisis, and we expect you guys to behave as if so. And like he said, maybe it's time for you guys to seek attorney advice on what you can do in creating a new policy or a new agreement with the plea organization so that you can handle these things accordingly. Thank you.
How you guys doing? I just want to tell you guys that I'm not against police, but what that guy, Christopher Myers, did to me and my family was wrong. Everybody in the world's seen it. We really feel like he should be fired. If any one of you guys, like Reverend Muppet said, acted that way, you guys would be fired. And the way that they have protections, we're just asking you guys to do what you can. We keep hearing that what you can't do. We feel like show some good faith, show that you guys have integrity of the city of Phoenix and actually punish them or hold them accountable like everyone else will be held accountable, like you guys would be held accountable if you did that to the family. And that's all we're just asking, just do what you can to hold those officers accountable. We're not against police, but that guy, he acted and he kind of represented the whole police department and making them look bad. So to restore that good name of the officers, I really think that something needs to be done to those officers who did that. That's all I have to say.
finished.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate your help. The City of Phoenix is moving forward on a 9-point plan recommended by the National Police Foundation. At yesterday's council session, Police Chief Jerry Williams presented a 5-point plan, which she is moving forward on with a variety of different measures. The City Council also approved 2 additional steps, and we will be building on previous steps we've taken. By August, we will deploy body cameras on our frontline officers. We've also dramatically changed training. We are committed to having the best department possible and continuing to innovate. Do any council members have comments? Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. I am strongly opposed to any firing, any limitations put on these police officers. They've got an exemplary career here. Other than the swearing, they did everything within policy. There's been a false narrative put out in the media that they've done something wrong because they saw a video at the end. What the public just recently is starting to see is everything that led up to that. It's like reading the last page of a book and thinking you know the entire book, when in fact you don't. So I would be strongly opposed to this. I would hope that there'd be no motion, no nothing on the table. At the same time, and I wanted to make sure I got on the record, that's why I did some of my research, is that it would also prevent some other things moving forward. You know, the charter is very clear about breaking the law, cannot do that. The charter is very clear that we have to follow state law, we have to follow the feds too. If we don't even like what the feds are doing, you can't buck them either. So the bottom line is, I think this is a bigger issue than just the firing. I think we also got to the fact that the City of Phoenix is going to be precluded going forward today from, if this fails, which I'm hoping that it does, is that it will preclude the City of Phoenix from bucking the state and the feds, because the charter is also very clear in other parts of it too. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Garcia.
Again, to Drayvon and Aisha, I want to thank you for your work. I know it's hard to, time and time again, speak to the media, come here in front of us, and hear things that attack your character. I'll just let you know that our office is committed to finding a way to discipline officers. What was done to you all was wrong, and you're right, the world saw it and the world is speaking to it. And so yesterday we were here for a little bit over 6 hours. We're committed throughout the recess to look for ways in which your family can obtain some justice. And again, we hope we can continue to work together and figure out what that justice looks for you. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Any additional comments? We will move then to item 126, an add-on item.
So the item
126.
fails then, right, Mayor, because it doesn't move forward?
Yes, there was, the City Council has entertained the petition,
Okay,
and we are moving on.
perfect. Thank you.
City Clerk, is item 126 our next item?
Yes, Mayor.
Do we have a motion on 126?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Second.
add-on item.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. We move to citizen comment. Kim Baker.
Okay.
I believe we're in the afternoon by now. I want to say good afternoon to the mayor and council. I want to talk to you all about what I believe is missing here in the city of Phoenix. We cannot be afraid to work on the perception of fairness as it relates to the community policing and all that's involved. Fairness from one end to the other probably varies. But it's safe to say what we all seen was disturbing. Being a grandfather, a dad, all of that in the community, it greatly troubles me that I too had a situation similar with my 17-year-old son earlier this year with the Phoenix Police Department. I'm pleased to tell you that my son has gone on, secured a scholarship in Kansas to pursue his basketball career. Yet having to deal with the trauma of what he faced, he's a strong young man. He took the time to face these officers in your city court and actually testified about the dealings of that day, which was also a part of his healing. The perception of fairness from my standpoint as his dad was to make sure that he had that opportunity to confront the officers and tell his side of the story. We cannot be afraid to deal with the perception, what the community perceives, and also from the other end, what the officers perceive. And somewhere find a medium in there to bring it all together to the table, and let's be a family, officers as well as the public. I've taken a great liking, or at least consideration, to Chief Kurtenbach. Come to find out that he's a friend of a good friend of mine, R.J. Norwood. And I want to continue to work with the city of Phoenix. I have relocated back into the city. I will not give my address due to some future, or some present concerns. Councilman Nowakowski gave me some advice, so I took that advice. But I do want to work with making our community a safer place, and our children all have an opportunity to pursue their careers. Thank you. Perception of fairness. Let's work on it.
Thank you. Adam Rodriguez, followed by Joshua Haskins.
Hi, Council and Mayor Gallego. I like to say that when I went through an incident, through an assault or some kind, the police officers were there. If they didn't have the full gear that they have, and they probably need more, I would want them to have it, because they're my weapon, they're my cops, they're my bullets. I don't do that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna call, I'll pay double taxes, and they get all that they need to be better. And I know you guys have been working on it, and you guys, Chief, and you guys, and she says she's not going to stop till she gets it done. She gets it done. She's going to keep going and going and going. I'm not going to repeat something. And I know that it's going to get better, because she says she's not going to stop. But I'd like to say that also, that when I worked with the City of Phoenix, I got an excellent award in Terry Goddard's time in '87 or so, or Fairbanks. And then I was a top baker, also another excellent award in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then my incident happened. But the cops were there for me. I had nobody else to call. They were there for me. They came. They told me what to do, how to stay safer, and how to get confidence back, my strength to be able to come outdoors. Assaulted when you're asleep, slammed to the floor, wake up in a puddle of blood. I didn't know what to do, who to call. They were my backup. They were the people that made me stand up again for myself and live and do what I had to do. Happened in 2014, and the effect is still coming about. But it's getting better with medication and all sorts of things. One eye vision, but it's going to get better. And I'm still working on it. And I couldn't do it without the officers coming, making a report. And then 4 days later, when the bruises come out, they come again and make another report. It was very interesting that they were interested, and they came and they took the time. And when they saw me the fourth day, they jumped back because of the bruises and colors. I said, wow, they're humans. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, I don't know what, but they came and took another report. But I just want to say that I know things and you guys are going to stop. Chief's going to make it happen. You officials, oh my God, I'm upset here today because I don't like them disrespecting you guys. I don't like nobody disrespecting the officers. I don't like them yelling at the chief. I don't like them yelling at the council. I don't like them yelling at officers. That's ridiculous. They should have security heat and just get them out. I don't care if there's 10 of them, get them out. That yelling to the officials, yelling to the officers of the chief, that's very disrespectful. That's why I'm here. That's crazy. How dare you? I've been here since 3rd grade. Graduated, went to college. That's ridiculous. You do not disrespect Phoenix officials. This is Phoenix. If you want to come and live in Phoenix and be in Phoenix, listen to the rules and be and follow by the rules because you know what? The City of Phoenix officials and cops are not going to take fake stuff. They're going to fix it. We're here to fix these, and it's always fixed. Oh, my time's up. Thank you much, and have a nice day. And I'd just like to say you guys do a good job. Don't let them disrespect. Have security. Get them out of here. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Haskins, followed by Barb Heller.
Thank you. So first, I want to start by just addressing a few things that were said here today. Mayor Gallego, you said at the opening of this meeting here, you shed some light on, you referenced the tragic loss of life, and I think you're referring to that APS worker who died on Sunday. And so I'm glad you said that because there is tragic loss of life that goes on here in the state of Arizona. And what happened is you said it like we should actually care that there's a loss of life, that there's a standard that we ought to apply to how we look at that. And so right now in Arizona, 35 to 40 babies are killed every single day through abortion. And so that's why I'm here today. And so I want to bring to light here what goes on in this state, and I want to appeal to you guys to actually do your duty. We heard DeCiccio over here. I might not even get to what I wrote today because I got to address what was said. So DeCiccio over here is saying, well, we can't have Arizona a sanctuary city and we can't do anything because we have to appeal to the state law. Well, I'm so glad he said that because we have a state law, Arizona Statute 13-3603, which makes it criminal for you to do such a wicked act as to murder a child in the womb. And so that's why we're here today. I'm here today as a slave of Christ, who's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's my King, He's my Lord, and He's also your King and your Lord, whether you worship and honor Him or not. And so today, we are God's creatures made to worship and glorify Him. You can't escape that fact. We're all made to worship. You're either going to worship the God that created you, the creator of the universe, or you're going to worship something else. And so I want to kind of touch on some things that happened in the Old Testament with the Canaanites and the Ammonites. They used to worship a false god, Moloch. And Moloch, they created a bronze statue of him, and his arms were stretched out like this. And they would heat up a furnace underneath Moloch, where people would come up and they would place their babies in the arms of Moloch to be burned alive, or they would cast their babies into the furnace underneath to die. And that happens today in Arizona and across the United States. Innocent children are put to death. They are sacrificed on that altar they call a medical table. And you guys are standing by and doing nothing about it. You guys have influence. God's placed you in your position of authority and power. And this city attorney, the prosecutors, they can actually tell the chief of police to enforce Arizona Statute 13-3603. Because here's what God says about those who would do such a wicked thing. In Leviticus 20, he says, again, you shall say to the children of Israel, whoever of the children of Israel or of the strangers who dwell in Israel, who give any of his descendants to Moloch, he shall surely be put to death. That's the standard for righteous judgment and punishment, life for life. If you would do such a wicked thing as to kill your baby, the only justice is for you to be put to death. And the people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from his people, because he has given some of his descendants to Moloch to defile my sanctuary and profane my holy name. And if the people, this is referring to you guys, if the people of the land should in any way hide their eyes from the man when he gives some of his descendants to Moloch, and they do not kill him, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut him off from his people and all who prostitute themselves with him who commit harlotry with Moloch. It's talking about you guys. You cannot turn a blind eye. You can't sit by and do nothing about it.
Thank you for your testimony.
Babies are dying in this state, and I urge you to do.
Barb Heller, followed by Zachary Conover.
Mayor and Council, everyone is here looking for improvement, diversity, and change. But again, we're jumping to conclusions without all the facts. Only fact I'm sure of is this video did not show the initial contact. Facts I will talk about is that according to the national standard, a city of this size should have 4,000 sworn officers. We have 2,900. Roughly 14% female, 4% African American, 20% Hispanic, 3% Asian, 1% Native American. We're about 1,100 short. The ones we have are overworked, underpaid, and not appreciated enough. Citizens that are crying out, you can change this. Be the diversity, be that change. There's 1,100 applications. Put on that uniform and that badge. Be part of those you stand to judge. Be the change you demand. Then I will also stand in defense of you, as I do for the blue. God bless each and every officer serving our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Zachary Conover, followed by Connor Smith.
Craig Conover, I'm a local minister here of the gospel, and good afternoon to you. My previous visits have been here addressing you on the issues of life and the unborn, as you know, and we've been told many times that this concern would be better raised in a different venue, that this council isn't really equipped to do anything to stop what's going on as far as the issue of abortion goes. But as we heard today about sanctuary cities and that premise, just recently, city councils in Georgia, North Carolina, and West Virginia have all taken steps to defy legislation that would protect children in the womb or prevent some people like me from trying to reach these women who are going into these facilities by passing sound ordinances and buffer zone regulations and restrictions. On the positive side, though, just to encourage us to do the right thing as a council, the city council in East Texas recently passed a resolution that would make them a sanctuary city for children who are the unborn, saying that any organization providing abortions within city limits would be criminalized. So I just want to encourage you that it is possible. We, of course, stand behind you. As you know, we've been here for months upon months now, exhorting you to do the right thing, to actually defy what's been given to us at the federal level. And as Councilman DeCiccio put it, he said specifically that we can't buck that law. But as you heard my brother here say, we have a current state law that's never been rescinded or done away with, and no law has been enacted at a federal level that is subversive to the laws of our states. Roe versus Wade is not a law. It is an unjust and immoral Supreme Court opinion. It has no authority, and therefore you have the authority to do the right thing and actually uphold state law and stand against this injustice that's happening in the state of Arizona. And you have the luxury of having a law that's already on the books that's never been overturned. Lastly, I just want to encourage us in light of Independence Day being tomorrow. Of course, we're very familiar with our nation's founding documents that make it clear that we're to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and for our posterity. I just want to remind all of us listening, we cannot possibly hope to complete that task if we are killing off our posterity. We cannot hope to do that, and anyone who says that this grave injustice is a constitutional right obviously is in violation of the very Constitution that says that we are to secure these blessings for our posterity in our nation. And we are created, of course, by our Creator with these inalienable rights, one of them being life. Our Creator is also our judge. He will judge us, and He will hold us accountable for the way that we've turned a blind eye to the children that are dying in this nation. This, of course, is Jesus Christ, who is our Creator and our judge. And I just want to proclaim to you the good news of which I am a minister, and that is that there is only peace found in Jesus Christ, with God by the sacrifice that he has offered in the place of sinners. This is our only hope, and it's our only hope for the foundation of justice in our society as well. Thank you very much for your time and for allowing us to address you.
Thank you. Connor Smith, followed by Jerry DeVore.
Thank you, City Council members. I appreciate your time. My name is Connor Smith, and I'm a member of Apologia Church. I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and that is why I'm here. I do want you to know I'm here in love and with concern for your souls. True love is not without sincere disgust and hatred for that which is wrong. Your job, ladies and gentlemen, is to uphold justice. 40 defenseless babies are being murdered in Arizona each day. That is not justice being upheld. It is illegal, as my friends have stated, to have an abortion in Arizona. AZ 13-3603 still stands. You cannot love life and celebrate the taking of it. God's word says this: let love be genuine. Hold fast to what is good, abhor what is evil. Murder is evil. Abortion is murder. Murder is wrong because life is valuable and it's not another person's place to take another person's life, right? Ask yourself, City Council members. We did not evolve to value from non-valuable pieces of stardust. It is because we are all image bearers of God that gives us supreme dignity as God's most exalted creatures made in his image. The slaughter of Jews was not wrong because over time humans gained value, and that act became wrong because humans had been around long enough to deserve life due to time and development. It was wrong because they're human beings made after their creator. Although certain human beings believed that Jews were not people, making it okay for them to take their lives by horrific, torturous acts. Millions were murdered because of that belief that Jews were not people. The Holocaust is not an event to become callous of, and I think we would all agree. If you, however, have become callous to the killing of defenseless babies but call the Holocaust a horrific event in history and think that we are not in the middle of a modern Holocaust, let me remind you, it is no different and you know it. It is happening every day and it is called abortion. I plead, see what is in your hearts by remaining silent. See the depravity. This is wicked. This is the dismembering of living human beings we are talking about here. There are no sidelines. Again, you are put in your position to uphold justice. This is not justice being upheld. You are not innocent. The blood that is on your hands currently is on your hands. It is. Again, we are here to love and admonish you, but remaining quiet is cowardly in support of death and not life. Everyone has the same appointment. You will give an account before God. Currently, you are storing up wrath against the true and living God. You need to repent. We will stand with you if you do for these precious lives. We've told you that, and we are committed to that. Please hear and heed to our counsel. Please, we plead, be on the right side of history, making Phoenix a sanctuary city. Please see what kind of hearts support and stand by while millions are murdered, hearts that are cold to babies being killed, hearts that show no care for the defenseless neighbor. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. That includes actions or inactions. God is kind, but his kindness and patience is meant to lead us to repentance.
Thank you for your
Repent,
testimony.
turn from your sins, and put your faith in Jesus Christ. Jesus said, if you love me, you will keep...
Jerry DeVore is our final card for today. Is Jerry still here? Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I appreciate it. I originally was here for item number 73 for the sale of park property, which was withdrawn. Not an unusual circumstance with this situation. I've been to numerous village meetings, council meetings, park meetings. On every one of them, the initial hearing or proposal was postponed. This thing started in February. We're clear to July. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it. The reason that this this property is up for sale is it has been deemed surplus for the pure reason that the city does not have money to maintain the current parks that they have. There's money on the books, money there, the land is there to develop the park. It hasn't been developed because there's no way to maintain it because of the funds that we have that. I would encourage you to look at our parks plan. We don't have a comprehensive parks plan on the west side where I'm from. We have 2 small parks and a couple of properties, and they're selling these. In the meantime, additional housing tracts and subdivisions are being developed. with lack of parks and deal, where public opportunities and opportunities for our kids to play, have places to do their sports, to play flag football, to play soccer, are only served by private and other means. And I appreciate your time and consideration for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is our final card today. Wish everyone a happy 4th of July. We are adjourned.